Hmm. Right. Well, it is after 9 o'clock, so in deference to those of us that did arrive on time, let's get going. I've appointed Donna, the door person, to let anybody else in that comes physically that doesn't have their code. So welcome to Coffee with a Purpose this morning, and welcome to our special guest, Reverend Bishop Kelly. Bishop, what is the name of your church? The
Way of the Cross.
Way of the Cross.
Way of the Cross.
Right. So, what I thought I would do this morning, obviously we're here to kick off Juneteenth. Juneteenth is on Wednesday.
You can take your time, if you need some more people to be here, that'd be fine. Sorry.
That's okay. Hopefully they'll filter in just a couple of minutes. In fact, here comes one right now. Juneteenth is on Wednesday. Last year, I think Coffee with a Purpose and Juneteenth coincided, but this year we've got Coffee with a Purpose on Monday, Juneteenth on Wednesday, but thought we would take the opportunity to talk about the holiday, the importance of it, hear from any folks from Natick for Black Lives Matter that are present to hear what they're up to these days. And in connection with that, Deborah Mitchell had told me about this streaming service, Black Star Network, that I think they focus on programming for the African American population, but one of the shows she particularly loves, the Black Table Network, I believe it's called, had an episode last year or the year before on Juneteenth. And the video itself is over an hour long, and it focuses on foods of June 19th, but it starts with a nice explanation of what the Juneteenth holiday represents. So I thought, why don't we could start with that. That'll kind of ground us a little bit. And then we can do our introductions. And as I say, Bishop Kelly is with us, and I'm certainly very interested to hear what he has to share with us this morning. So that being said, and I'm going to apologize in advance for all of the technical flubs I'll undoubtedly make. Martin is away today, so I'm trying to run almost the whole show. Sarah's doing the recording for me, which we've already started. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and find this video, which I'm attempting to start a few minutes in, where the speaker introduces themselves. Are folks seeing that? It should just be the word unity across your screen. Paused at the moment.
Great.
All right. Okay, here we go.
Welcome to the Black Table on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Greg Carr. We'll devote an hour today, as we always do, to exploring ideas and subjects of general importance and special importance to African people and others fighting for the struggle to make and build a better world. Well, we are in the week of Juneteenth. For the second time in the history of the United States of America, there will be a national Juneteenth holiday celebrated. We are very excited about that here at the Black Table. In fact, so excited that we have lined up a couple of guests to help us think through the history of Juneteenth and the meaning of Juneteenth, the first of which will help us put it in an international context and help your celebrations really pop. And then we'll get into the deeper significance of Juneteenth as it relates to Texas, the history of the United States, and the future of the United States. So let's start with some basic facts. On June 19th, 1865, Major General Gordon Granger, accompanied by troops from the United States Army, by some accounts, as many as 3/4 of them, people of African descent, men of African descent, rode and sailed into Galveston Bay in Texas and issued General Order Number 3, declaring that not only was the war over, but that enslavement was over. And the following year, the first Juneteenth celebration took place, and that was on June 19th, 1866. Now, it's very important to understand that Juneteenth is folded into a constellation of Emancipation Day celebrations around the hemisphere. Usually in the Caribbean, those celebrations congeal somewhere around the first or second week of August. In other parts of the United States, certainly during the Civil War, Emancipation Proclamation, January 1st became a very important date after January 1st, 1863, of course. And throughout the South, as Juneteenth spread into Oklahoma and Louisiana and other places, sometimes that date might fall later in the month of June or even in July or August. And all of these together are emancipation celebrations that talk really about the long freedom struggle of people of African descent. And of course, in Texas, we saw Juneteenth, thanks to a brother, Representative Al Edwards, become a state holiday in 1980. But of course, we're talking about it now in the context of the United States and a federal holiday, because in May 2020, George Floyd lost his life in Minnesota. But what many of you know, because we know our brother Roland Martin, the founder and leader of the Black Star Network, graduated from Jack Yates High School, as did George Floyd. What many of you may not know is that Jack Yates, the high school that Roland graduated from, that George Floyd graduated from, Felicia Rashad, Debbie Allen, so many others graduated from, that school is named for Jack Yates, a formerly enslaved African who came to Texas, like George Floyd's family did, from North Carolina, and was one of the formerly enslaved Africans who bought land and in 1872 created Emancipation Park, where the first Juneteenth was celebrated in Texas, in that part of Texas, in Houston. Well, when George Floyd lost his life in May 2020, the Great Reckoning began to flood into the streets of the United States and around the world. 2 years later, or actually a year later, the President of the United States on June 17th, 2021, created a Juneteenth holiday. I was actually there for that bill signing, and nobody believed that there would have been a national Juneteenth holiday had people not been out in the streets for a whole year before. And this little kind of symbolic gesture opened up a new conversation around race and around power, around enslavement, around national memory. And so today, we couldn't think of anyone better to think about Juneteenth, the rituals of Juneteenth, the significance of Juneteenth, than a sister who enters this conversation from a very unique point. She is a naturopathic doctor, physician. She is an entrepreneur and institution builder. She is a 5-generation herbalist. She is a remarkable thinker, institution builder, cultural worker, and Dr. Sunyata Aman, who joins us now. And in addition to everything else, she is the TEO of Calabash Tea and Tonic, an institution here in Washington, D.C., and through the internet worldwide. She's going to help us think about Juneteenth in a very special and very specific way. I want to bring her to the Black table and welcome her. Welcome, Dr. Aman.
Thank you, Dr. Carr. Thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here with you.
Yes, no, I mean, thank you. I mean, we have a lot of, next week we'll talk to Gerald Horn, our friend Gerald Horn, who's going to walk us through the history of Texas and Juneteenth and all that. But today we were like, okay, everybody's going to be celebrating. And of course, our people have been celebrating all along in Texas with the barbecues and the foot races and the pageants and the games. But the food is significant in all human rituals. And people now who are stumbling around in the stores trying, well, I want to celebrate Juneteenth, or I want to honor Juneteenth. What do they eat? I mean, what do they do? We said, let's get Dr. Aman to talk about this, because you published recently an article in the Washington Post, actually, I guess it was last week, where you talk about the significance of some of the Juneteenth foods as they relate to the celebration and the culture, and particularly the concept of these red foods. But we want to talk about that in the next segment. What I hope you'll share with us today.
Well, I'm going to stop the video there and end my screen share. So hopefully folks will consider that maybe a teaser. I will put the link to the Black Star Network into that video into the chat a little bit later, or in the follow-up. You can subscribe to that network with a free account, which is what I did. And perhaps you might watch the video to learn what they have to say. Donna, there's someone at the door. Or perhaps Bishop Kelly or others might tell us at some point what their favorite Juneteenth foods are. But at any rate, why don't we take time now for our introductions, and we'll go around the room, and if you've got some involvement with the local Native for Black Lives Matter group, feel free to share that as well. But we'll just do introductions for now, and then we'll kind of invite Bishop Kelly to speak. So Sarah, I'm seeing you first.
Hi, Bishop. I remember you from last year. Doug's wife, Sarah, interested in all things Natick, and Doug and I have enjoyed getting to know Deborah and through Coffee with a Purpose and some of Deborah's work. So,
Thanks, Sarah. Elaine.
Elaine, relatively new to Natick. My mother's family escaped from Russia in about 1922 and settled in Harbin and came to the US in the early 20s. I was born in Massachusetts, went to college in Anyway, I'm delighted and looking forward to this presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Elaine. Sally? Come on.
Good morning. Good morning, all. And thank you, Bishop, for being in person with CWAP. I know you're so supportive of Natick for Black Lives Matter, of which I am a member. And of course, with the inspiration and hard work of Deborah Mitchell, I'm happy to hear today's presentation and learn more. I always do from you. Thank you.
Thanks, Sally. Pat?
Good morning. I'm Pat Conaway, Keep Natick Beautiful. Very eager to learn more this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Rick?
Rick Devereaux, also a supporter of Black Lives Matter and Natick, and Deb. And I'm looking forward to what you say today, Bishop. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Deborah, I see you're online.
Hi, my name is Deborah Mitchell. I'm the founder of Native Black Lives Matter. Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. Let's see who's next. Bill?
Hi, Bill Ramage here. Regular on Coffee with a Purpose, and interested in hearing what you have to say today. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Bill. Catherine? Catherine, are you away from the mic? Or now we could circle back. Carol? Perhaps Carol's away from the mic too. In the room, we've got Donna. Donna, you want to say hi?
I'm Donna McKenzie, glad to be here and honored that we have Bishop Kelly here with us. And I've worked with Black Lives Matter and important for Natick. So I look forward to talking about that with all of you.
Oh, wonderful. Just told me the internet connection is unstable. Hopefully that won't be a problem. I'm glad Sarah is doing the recording and not me. So Donna's thanks to you, Bishop, for joining us. I'm gonna switch to speaker view here. I'm not sure whether that will be better, but Bishop, let me turn it over to you again. Thanks for joining us.
How's everybody doing? First
Good,
of all,
good.
on such a beautiful day, it really is a very nice day, and thank you all for your warm welcome. I guess I didn't do too bad last year for you to have me back again.
Oh, we love to have you here. Yeah.
Thanks to Doug for reaching out. Thank you for reaching out to me directly, Doug, and personally. And Natick is such a beautiful town, and it's such a beautiful day. I said, let me get out. I don't want to stay in the house, and in the Zoom, we can do that anytime. So
right.
I felt that this was a great opportunity to come. A little disappointed though that we don't have a full room right now.
Yeah.
Right, but you know, I think it's a sign of the times, I believe. Because we thought, you know, last year, we were, you know, what, 1 year removed from the pandemic, I guess, and
Right.
and I guess people really wanted to get out.
Yeah.
But you know, after a while, what happens is that I guess we kind of fall back into normality, whatever that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I thank God for being here, and it's a privilege and an honor to be with you all today. So, I don't know. I hope what I share with you will stimulate some thought.
I'm sure it will.
I share a little bit about you know, the introduction. I think was right on point. Of course, it was, because it really highlighted some of the history of this journey that we've all been involved in as it relates to, I guess, the catchphrase inclusiveness and equality, right? So when we're doing something like this, and I'll tell you, I like to be prepared, and I like to facts and history. It helps us to remember. It helps us to reflect. It helps us to hopefully improve upon what happened, what should have happened, and what we should be doing right today. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna take a little quick journey, and hopefully we can get through this in a short period of time, because I guess other people want to say something. But I also want to give a shout out to Deborah Mitchell for inviting me to as well. And she's still fighting. You know, we all, I think, have personal challenges to some degree. But my hat's off to you, Deborah, for in spite of the challenges, that you're still standing. We're all still standing, right?
Yeah, she
And
soldiers on.
Yeah, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. So I guess if I would caption today's talk, it would be what Juneteenth means to us today in 2024. What Juneteenth means to us today in 2024. I probably should start off with my story. You know, I am a sharecropper's son from North Carolina. Believe it or not, I was born in 1947 in Lewisburg, North Carolina. It's called Franklin County. And so at that time, of course, there was quite a bit of prejudice, segregation, years removed from slavery, years removed from the Second World War. My father was a Marine, lied to get into the Marines at 17 years old. Was able to survive, went to and fought. Well, it's not clear whether he really fought, but he was part of the troop that went to Iwo Jima in Okinawa. And if anybody knows that history, you would know that because of segregation, the Black soldiers were not they were not allowed to be with other white comrades. And a matter of fact, they were placed on the front lines, and a lot of them were, I guess, porters carrying artillery and that sort of thing. But still, they were very vulnerable, which means that if they did have any weapons, those weapons were outdated and so forth. And they were not allowed even to fight the Germans, who were white at that time. So that's my story. My folks migrated from North Carolina through Philadelphia, New Jersey, New York, and finally settled in Massachusetts when I was 6 years old. So that's my brief story. But we want to go back again, because I want to really highlight what Juneteenth means to us today in 2024. We know that the US Constitution was written in 1787, and it was ratified in 1788. And there were 3 words that was written in the Constitution: we the people. If that doesn't speak to inclusiveness, it should, right?
It should.
It should. However, we the people was written primarily for people that didn't look like me, and it was directed specifically to the House of Representatives and the Senate and the governance of the United States. So who are we the people, really? And it said, Constitution said, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice. I think we could probably stop there and provide the common defense, promote the general welfare. We could probably stop there too, and secure the blessings of liberty. So, the reference to religion and God is in there, which I think our country was originally founded on, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America, everybody. No matter your color, your culture, your religion, whatsoever. That's supposed to be the moniker of the Constitution. All right, that was 227 years ago. The Jim Crow, I don't know, does anybody know what Jim Crow means? It's a derogatory term, but Jim Crow, the persona, is it originated from a theater character developed by an entertainer, Thomas D. Rice, in 1808 to 1860, and it popularized through his minstrel shows. The character is a stereotype depicting African Americans and their culture. My question is, what was the African American culture at that time?
Yeah.
That really had an impression on me. I mean, how did they live? What challenges did they have to deal with? I mean, under slavery at the time, because that's when Jim Crow really started. Now, the Jim Crow was institutionalized, okay? And it became law and was passed at the end of Reconstruction in 1877 through the and listen, it survived. This is systemic racism, systemic prejudice, systemic, I mean, injustice, you just name it. And that lasted from 1877 to the mid-1950s. Jim Crow. Making fun of the African American culture. And then the South making it law. Can you imagine that? So that was, so 37 years after Jim Crow, then there was a movement, the Civil War, and abolition of slavery was passed by Congress in January 31, 1965, and ratified on December 6, 1965, and it became part of the 13th Amendment. 13th Amendment, the abolition of slavery. Wahoo! Yay!
Oh yeah, we're done.
Finally, we're now equal. We now have justice. We think.
Yeah.
We think. But that ushered in, okay, right? A lot of people, many people didn't know that Civil War had ended and that slavery had been abolished. And so now, okay, so just like when the war ended, some people in the war, the news communication was as good as it is today. We didn't have all these, devices that could help us communicate in an instant.
Mhm.
And so it took some months and some years for some people to realize that they were, I guess, semi-free.
Semi.
Semi-free, okay. But then it takes my breath away to think about I was born in that era.
Mhm.
I was born in 1947 and and my ancestors, they were slaves and the abolition of slavery. So June 1865, the word Juneteenth arrived 2 years after abolition. As was stated, June, the date 19th, celebrates the date when enslaved people of African descent located in Galveston, Texas, finally learned that their freedom from slavery. The system was abolished and they learned in the United States. So Juneteenth is often overlooked in our nation's history. It was Union troops freed and enslaved, and that was 159 years ago.
Mhm.
It seems like a long time, but yet it's a short time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. 30 years after Jim Crow, Frederick Douglass, he then the abolitionists, I guess, that promoted folks to believe now, let's test, let's challenge, let's really see if we're really free.
Mhm.
Can we really exercise our rights? Can we really do that? And he was quite a drum major, using Martin Luther King's term. He was
Mhm.
for justice and that sort of thing. And he died in 1895, which was 129 years ago. I want to just highlight some things that took place. 70 years ago was the Brown versus Board of Education. How do we really overcome? How does any generation overcome unless you have an opportunity to learn, to educate yourself? When you grow up in a certain environment like I did, I didn't realize that I was a second or third class citizen. I didn't realize that there was no equality. I didn't realize that I didn't have certain privileges. I didn't realize that there really was a difference between white or black, except the color, because in North Carolina, we worked on a farm, but we played with each other, white and blacks and that sort of thing as kids.
Yeah.
But, and I left, my family left the South, to make a better life for our family. And I left young enough to not really understand what segregation was, or prejudice, or Jim Crow was.
Wow.
Yeah. So let me just so civil rights, the Civil Rights Act. Civil Rights Act was moved by Martin Luther King. Civil Rights Act of 1964, discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or natural origins. The provision of Civil Rights Act forbade discrimination on the basis of sex, as well as race in hiring and barring and firing. 1964, I was a very young man. That was in 1964.
Yeah, what were you,
I was
17?
16, 17 years
Yeah.
old. That was a very, I thought, Renaissance year, but it was a time, during a time when there was the assassinations and John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, it was a very scary time. It was after Vietnam War. I could have been drafted, but because I was the only boy in my family, my father removed from the family, I was the primary breadwinner, even at 17 years old, and I became the surrogate husband for my wife, for my mother, and the surrogate father for my siblings.
Wow.
Using my paper route money to help my mother get along. It's not, the story is not so, I guess, sad or bad, because when we moved to Boston, in 2 years, my mother and father was able to purchase a home in Dorchester, predominantly Jewish community. We were one of the first Black families to own a home, two family, and so they were successful. My mother wanted to be a nurse, and my father wanted to be, then they call it mechanic, an automotive engineer. We ended up because again, even though they were very aggressive, and very self-motivated, because the family structure fell apart, we lost the home. And then we went into welfare, and that was another story altogether.
Yeah.
But, so moving ahead, Wednesday. What? Getting back to our topic again, and again, I wanted to share that information. I want to also, since I've been involved in that, I'll tell you, during the civil rights movement, I was part of that as well, because everybody knows that Martin Luther King got educated here. He met Coretta Scott King here, got married, had, so this was the genesis, Massachusetts, went to church, 12th Baptist Church, Warren Street. I was 9 years old when Martin Luther King did his march in Boston. And I felt then that we were committing civil disobedience, and I didn't think that, why would we do something like that? Again, because I was so far removed from the prejudice, the segregation, and the injustice that was happening primarily in the South and that sort of thing. So that's my experience. Let me just try to wrap this up. So Juneteenth, what does it mean? Let me just civil rights, I would say, civil rights, what did it have, the impact on me? The fact that it took 200 years, it took more than 200 years, June 17, 2021, when the Juneteenth was established 3 years ago as a national holiday. I look at that, that's 237 years, 230 years. So what does Juneteenth mean to us? What does it, you and I today? Do we just celebrate the abolition of slavery for just African Americans? Or today, should it be a reminder that if we're not careful, we could all become enslaved again? So where are we today? And the word that seems to me that resonates in my spirit is this word reform. Reform, it's a very, I would say, challenging word, because the reform means to change. It means to rehabilitate. It means to convert. That scares a lot of people. Because many of us don't want to change, right? It means to amend. It means to put to end some things, right? Because of the violence and brutality and all that we've experienced, all of us, not just African Americans. Reformation is something that scares. I mean, the police department, I think, is one that everybody seems to target. Wow. Think about that. What we do without our public first responders, the police department that's supposed to protect us. What would we do without that? Reform and reformation did not just start now, but go back to 1832. And the Reformation really originated in England, the United Kingdom. What do you think was, and then what prompted the Pilgrims and, Mayflower and all them to come here so that they could exercise their God-given rights, right? Wow. So what are we really talking about here? The question is what's happening and what reforms are being made to improve our quality of life today? That prompt us to think about that?
Yeah.
Are we destroying our sense of justice when we reform things? Our so-called social freedom, social revolution destroying our legacy, our Constitution? Our hard-earned principles of decency, fairness, and justice for all. Wow. Are our modern-day standards and systems that include the mind-altering social media and the induction of AI, oh boy, artificial intelligence, making us robots? Is society losing, and have we lost control? Are these systems and controls taking away our faith in God, from which our country was founded? And probably more important, taking away our identity and our belief systems and our faith in one another. It's really about social change, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a lot of hypocrisy on both sides. That is really on all sides when it comes to these terms. How do we justly and equitably apply these terms to improve the quality of life for all of us? I call it a Campbell's soup of social change.
All right.
We're living in and experiencing sort of a Campbell's soup or social change. And what are they? Racial diversity, inclusiveness. Now, I could get into each one of these, but I don't have the time. But just going down the list, I think raises something of what we all are thinking about and dealing with every single day. Racial diversity, inclusiveness, being progressive, equality, opportunity, racial justice, right to life movement, women's rights versus human rights, reproductive rights, individual rights, First Amendment rights, the left versus the right, liberals versus conservatives, Republicans versus Democrats. Should I say more? On and on and on. A Campbell's soup of social change. What do we do with that? None of us want or like censoring, anti-Semitism, no, hate speech. It should have no place in our country today, right?
That's right.
With the social change,
Hey, Deborah.
racism, violence, racial profiling, on and on and on and on. What happens to me is going to affect you. regardless of our color, regardless of our background, regardless of our experience, our faith is going to affect all of us. Affirmative action was established and moved in 1961. And now they're trying to abolish affirmative action.
They did abolish.
To focus on quality education. Oh my. No one wants to be discriminated against. No decent person wants to be marginalized or prejudiced. No one wants to be treated differently because of our skin color, our race, our nationality of faith. Nor should we be treated differently. A democratic society, whether it be Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, or other.
Thank you.
So I leave this with us again. I hope this was thought provoking. Just one other thing I want to read in closing. This was published in one of our journals. Let me pull this up. The Bay State Banner. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that.
The what?
Bay State Banner.
I am.
This is editorial. Get it? Okay. This piece really struck me. It says, it's easy to say that we are multiple generations past slavery and the damage caused by centuries of oppression and bias. But that legacy is clearly stamped in a society where opportunity to build generational wealth is just one example. We're denied by discriminatory housing and lending policies.
Yeah.
The same court that struck down affirmative action in higher education admissions also struck down reproductive rights in overturning Roe versus Wade. These decisions were a 1-2 punch against fairness and individual rights and don't bode well for a future built on equitable opportunity and bodily autonomy. As we mark the anniversary of Brown versus the Board of Education, it's time to stand up and push back to ensure that systems created to correct the imbalance of the past are not dismantled before they achieve their goal. Black Americans have always cherished education, in some cases learning to read and write in spite of laws forbidding such instruction. The Brown decision 70 years ago was not the end of discrimination. It was the start of a long unfinished process to reverse the impact of systematic bias. 7 decades removed from Thurgood Marshall's argument on behalf of the plaintiffs, we are still a long way from achieving that goal and making up the damage, striking down affirmative action in higher education that makes that process all the more difficult. While seeking new strategies to boast diversity in higher education, we must also strengthen our public schools to ensure that our children can again have access to the nation's best colleges and universities, and I might say, for all of us, the justice and equality for all. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Thought-provoking words as always. You always give us a lot to think about. And thanks in particular for kind of sketching out your history. I feel a little bit bad. Catherine Duran had her hand up for a while, but now I see she's left the meeting, so I'll have to catch up with her. I wanted
She had earlier, she had another meeting she had to jump off at around 10, so.
all right.
But I'll take questions if anybody wants.
Yeah, I also wanted to welcome Kristen Pope. I see she's on. I don't know if she's actually at the computer or not, but welcome, Kristen. And yeah, Deborah, we've got two Deborahs now. We got the remote Deborah. And we've got Deborah in person.
Well, I
Yeah.
need to share.
Yeah.
I didn't know that the bishop was coming in person. I actually had a visitor last night. I'm sorry, Bishop, I missed the trip,
Glad to see you, Deb. That's
He was a major donor to my Pop and Beans children's books. So I had to entertain him, and it was Father's Day, so I was feeling a little low. And when he came, he brought all the best Southern food, Juneteenth food. There's a restaurant called Tennessee, not nearby here. And he brought the ribs. I had the barbecue ribs, barbecue chicken, cucumber salad, which is Southern, and my favorite greens, which I ate with my fingers. And he also bought the cornbread, macaroni and cheese. So my other family members, then we had a big Zoom call with my dad. And
Okay.
everybody was talking about what they was the burner bin and this and that. And I didn't tell them, but I had the same thing. I had everything going for me over there. I had everything going over there. So anyway, after he had left, I had a meeting this morning with the Songs for Black Lives. And I was we were talking about, and by the way, my speech, we were talking about race relations, and so they're white, but we're all brothers and sisters. And my friend Fran, Fran, pray for Fran, because she's going to get an operation. Fran, I believe. And so we just prayed, and we talked about Martin Luther King and the trying to all get along and coming up with strategies to do that. So I'm just glad to be here. I had my homemaker was here, so I couldn't leave. That's why you got two Deborahs.
That's okay.
But I had the flags. I had, and when I saw Bishop was here, I said, "Oh no, I gotta come. I gotta see my bishop. I gotta see the bishop." So anyway, and I want to say one thing about food, because food is. I didn't know the color red was. If you watch the rest of this video,
Yeah,
you find out
I
that
want to ask you about that. Yeah.
red. I watched most of the video.
Okay.
And I found out, and she's really, really good. And one of the colors, the bishop, you might be able to agree with me on this. Black people like the color red, or that's one of our, like watermelon. And we growing up, we had red watermelon with juleps. We like red and red Kool-Aid, that kind of stuff. I didn't know, but my mother, when she died, we all had a pop of red. Yeah, so something about the Black experience that we like red. And so she also, and this lady on the video, she was also talking about how health. Now Bishop listening to me now. Bishop said, "Oh, listen to this girl. She got some stuff to tell me." Health is also a form of resistance with young people. I was 118 pounds when I got married. But because I have bipolar, Donna, I have bipolar disorder. I can go up and down, I go crazy on people, you have to block me, unblock me. But I went on a program where I didn't eat flour and sugar, and I lost 16 pounds. And I fit into my wedding dress, I was 18 pounds. My husband now, my ex-husband, he act like you don't know, who are you? When he sees me, because I'm like, so, I mean, he's like he's very dapper Dan. So anyway, we have one daughter, but what I'm trying to say is food is a form of resistance, taking care of your health, taking care of your body, right, Bishop? He likes to
I affirm that.
Bishop exercises. He got me on his show, and I said, Bishop, I'm not ready to do this show. He said, but you have to work on yourself. And it comes with mind too. You gotta be healthy spiritually. So Bishop has been my mentor for 20 years, right? 20
Somewhere around
years.
there.
And he said, Deb, the last 2 years you've been off. I said, I realize it, but I have been, because I lost my mom and I was sad, and my dad he's doing much better now. But I've also been off with my health. And I'll just eat anything, just eat 3 or 4 cheeseburgers at a time. Because I have a food addiction. Sometimes I might even go into the till where I'm not supposed to go into the till for it, but I repented, I replenished. But what I'm trying to say, food is a form of resistance. Because if you're not healthy, what can you do?
Right, yep,
You can't do anything.
Yeah.
All right? So, and lastly, I'm gonna let Kristen Pope talk next, but I know she's probably gonna talk, right?
well, I hope she's got
Yeah.
something to share with us. If nothing else, I want her to tell us about her daughter Lily and
Yeah.
what she's gonna be up
But-
to, but
The
but go ahead.
the last
Yeah.
thing I wanna share is that
Hmm.
I think that I'm in a pivotal moment with Native Black Lives Matter.
Okay,
Because Donna has been trying to get me, she said, Deb, let's do, what did you say, scholarships, let's get some scholarships. You always have these great ideas, but I've never, nah. Like, let's just do what we do, but it's time to act, it's time to get scholarships to young people.
Hmm.
It's time to do like voting rights stuff, because there's a movement called Black Voters Matter. It's time to get on these voting banks. Donna does Democratic Lister, I hope she shares about her activities too. But it's time to move.
Mhm.
Kristen was the host of Basic Blacks. And I hope you talk, they canceled the Black Shuttle in
Hmm.
Boston. There's a lot of things going on.
is that on
Affirmative action,
GBH or something?
yes,
Yeah.
it's been years, 2020, part of 2025 is coming. If you read that, it's a lot of anti-blackness in that document. There's also the Freedom Fund, which was a fund that would give money, Black women give money to other Black women. The same guy that canceled affirmative action canceled that.
Mhm.
But I hear that there's a lot of going after Black owned businesses and stuff. So we just gotta be cognizant, but Bishop would say, can't fight fire with fire, you gotta fight it with love, you gotta act out of love, you gotta be strategic in your thinking.
Mhm.
I listened to one of the guys, he was a civil rights guy, and this is on the Black Lives Network, he just died.
Okay, yeah,
He spent an hour talking about LGBTQ before people don't wanna stand up for their rights, now we should stand up for their rights, we should embrace their rights too. Even if we don't have the same sentiments,
Mhm.
there are people being discriminated
Mhm.
against,
Right,
we gotta fight for everybody. So
That's right.
action is louder than words, but, we're gonna try it again, we'll get it right.
Mhm.
We're just, we got people here that are way beyond my years, I'm not saying that you're way older than me, but,
Deborah, do you
So-
want to tell us a little bit about these things that you brought?
Yes,
with
now,
you?
my friend named Mary Ann, she bought these flags, this is a Juneteenth flag. And tomorrow at our group, there's another person that just blessing of her heart.
Mhm.
And I bought some of these too, so this is a Juneteenth flag.
Mhm.
She did the history of the Juneteenth flag on a little piece of paper, and I have that too.
And you got another flag there?
And then this is the Black American flag, see this?
Mhm.
And I'm so happy she brought this. I'm going to a Juneteenth party in Maryland. I get the flower from my brother, don't bring your nickname, I need your knickknacks and stuff. He think he knows everything, but I'm bringing the knickknacks. I got the flags, I got the bracelets. I got the little pins. See these?
Yeah,
Juneteenth. It was a celebration.
so is there significance to the pattern of this
Yes,
fabric?
African, the colors, African fabrics.
Mhm.
And the black, Bishop, blood is for our blood, the blood of our ancestors. Black is for the skin, our color. And green is for the land, red, black, and green. Do you know this flag? You're kind of up in age, you should know. Bishop is like my dad, but there's a bunch of stuff I could say to Bishop I could never say to my father. Yes.
Well, thanks for all of
Yeah,
that,
you're
Deborah.
welcome. My swag.
Kristen, did you want to add any thing? Know if you're available to speak or, yeah, go ahead, Donna. Yeah.
Well, I just first want to thank Bishop Kelly for your words, and you're not old enough to be Deb's dad. That's just the aside that I wanted.
That's why I talk to him like that. I'm just like, if he was my dad, I couldn't talk to him like I did. Tell him off and stuff.
Well, I think
Uncle Bishop.
I appreciated the way that you brought in a lot of the big questions, and I think that racism is just insidious. It's still with us. And we live in a world replete with microaggressions, and Natick is only 2% Black. And I don't tell this story very often, but when I was growing up, I was blaring Joan Baez's Blessed Hour in my house. And this man came, this Black man from Harvard, who was doing a study, who asked if he could use the bathroom. Like, of course, come on in.
At your house?
The bathroom. And my mother was like, I couldn't tell whether it was more upsetting to her that I let a strange man in to use our bathroom, or it was because the man was Black.
Yeah.
But that's just an indication of how rare a Black person was in Natick once upon a time.
And you not that old either.
And with 2%, I mean, it's a little bit more, but are we totally comfortable with our Black presence in Natick? And I don't think so. I think there's still issues and microaggressions that we have to combat. And that's why I think like a Juneteenth celebration is really important and really critical for Natick to come together as a community and celebrate, because I'm reminded of this thinking even about Israel. We forget how horrible the Holocaust was. And slavery was so horrible that it's hard to walk around with that kind of history and pain in your head, that you tend just to kind of forget it. And when they do studies on the Holocaust, some kids say, oh, it was only 2 million, people killed, not 6 million. And I bet there's a lot of like, oh, slavery wasn't, do you know what I mean? I mean, there's just a lot of sanitizing.
Well, you got some states
Forget about
pushing
it, you know?
textbooks that say that slavery taught the Black people valuable skills. Come on.
Yeah.
Right,
And they say we should forget it. Why
Yeah.
bring it up? It happened so long ago. But this post-traumatic slave disorder, there's a lot of things that linger because of slavery. Like even being in white spaces. I live in Natick. I'm 1%, 2% Black. When I walk in a white space, I have to be careful. I have to look around me. But because I've worked in so many of these places, they know me. They fulfill me. Hey, Jeff. When I go to the fire station grill, there's a lot of white folks in there. I'm just be keeping it real. That's the name of my TV show. And sometimes I got into an argument with the guy over at the fire station grill the other day. But yesterday, because of the spirit of the Lord, I brought him a flag. I said, listen, it's Juneteenth. Are we good? He said, yeah, I took the flag.
Good for
And
you.
then we're good, because I do pop and beans books, which shows Black people on it, and I know all the kids, I know a lot of families. They know, but otherwise, I don't know how I was assimilated, to be honest with you, Donna, I'm from a Black town. You can take that Black out of the hood out of the girl, but you can't take the girl out the hood, but you can't take the hood out of the girl, right? So wholly with the hint of hood. Okay, so, but I found friends. I have a lot of friends here, people that actually care about me, people that call me, people that say, hey, you can't drive your car, here's $100. Here's $400. So I've made a way that, but Kristen's been waiting to talk, so I don't want to take away.
Just a
Kristen
brief,
had to leave.
No, Kristen's here.
Is she here?
I'm
Yeah,
gonna get
she's-
some water.
she's right there in the
By way,
center.
you want me to wait before I go?
just a brief comment on.
Yeah. Oh, you wanna-
No, I'm on, sorry. Just a brief comment on what Donna said. Donna, I appreciate your comments and reflections. There's a book that chronicalizes where our churches are Jewish synagogue. And there's a book that I would recommend that if you want to know and see how our communities changed because of the influx of different nationalities, genocide takes place and all kinds of stuff happens with properties and so forth. It's called The Death of the American Jewish Community. the death of the American Jewish community and what happened during that time. That was in the 70s, after civil rights, 70s, when more African Americans were moving into Roxbury and Dorchester. I didn't experience, or I wasn't aware of the prejudice or segregation. I grew up in a mixed community, predominantly white, but it didn't affect me. So, and everybody's affected differently. So, and when Deborah talks about her discomfort, in being around people that's not like her, I don't experience that. I don't feel that
What is it you want to
because
plug
I
into
grew up in a
this?
mixed
Yeah.
environment.
I don't know if that-
And went to school with people that didn't look like me, but I didn't think that I was different. So I just wanted to share that
Yeah,
with everybody.
but I'm sure you had some situations where you.
Oh, I've had some experiences that, again, shocked me because racial profiling
Yeah.
Yeah.
and being denied certain opportunities because of my
Mhm.
skin. But
Yeah.
I was taught also to never let those things keep you back, and
Thank you.
that you're better than that, and you
Yes.
can, it makes you work harder.
Yeah.
You have to be smarter
Yeah.
in most instances in order to be accepted.
Kristen, I see you've got your video on. Did you want to share anything with us? I wanted to, I think I mentioned an email to you, but to the group. Kristen, I don't know how recent it was. You did a TED Talk. Was it in Roxbury? Very inspiring. And everyone should take time to listen to that. But welcome, Kristen.
Thank you so much, Doug, because I did not follow your protocol correctly. You were asking for a confirmation, and I'm sorry, I am trying to get my mind right with the new camp schedule, the end of school and the beginning of camp and all of the things. So thank you for your
Parenting is
Doesn't come with a playbook. That's for sure.
No, thank you for your patience and your grace. It is so good to be here with all of you this morning. I see these beautiful, familiar faces. Deborah, Donna, Sarah, Rick, Sally, Pat, Carol, Bill, whomever else I'm missing, Bishop, Kelly. It's a blessing to be in you all's presence this morning. I thank you for giving me just a few moments to speak because I've enjoyed the things that I have heard so far. What Bishop Kelly said about reform and reformation, and just what we know about the time of Reformation and what that means is substantive. It's beautiful. We need that. Sometimes we need revival. Sometimes we need reform. And I would say in a lot of ways, we need reform and revival and refreshing. When I contemplate and spend time meditating on Juneteenth, I think mostly about liberation. I think mostly about liberation. I am grateful for the history that is in this room. When I look at the faces, Deborah saying that Bishop Kelly is almost like her dad. But what I hear in that is there are people whose shoulders we stand upon. There is such great history here and hard work and sacrifice. And I don't take that for granted. It is all of these things. When I look at Pat Conway and I think about Keep Natick Beautiful, I think about, God's order to us to take care of the earth. That is a place of liberation. In Natick, we have environmental justice locations. So often, Precinct 2 is talked about, West Natick is talked about as an environmental justice location. And we know of so many more, that's here in Natick, where we, people consider us from the outside looking in prosperous, so we're not absolved in our pocket of the world of things like environmental justice, racism, people who are on the lines of poverty. That exists here. It exists here. And it is not to say that we don't have hope. I almost said Pope. It's not to say we don't have hope. It is to say that we have work to do, you know, in linking arms with one another. And I thank God for all of the arms and all of the hands that are linked together, because liberation is going to take us all. It is going to take the efforts of us all. And I think it matters about, you know, what is our definition of liberation? What does that mean to each and every one of us? Well, it does mean that everyone has access to clean water, access to trees, access to open space, access to healthy food, you know, access to not always being the only one. That for me is important. That for me is important. Just being honest, you know, I appreciated Deborah's recalling of how she grew up. My daughter Lily and I are growing up very different. I grew up in the suburbs, but I grew up in a predominantly Black neighborhood. And you were not exceptional because you were smart. That was the expectation. At least it was in my house. Yeah. And my daughter is growing up in a very different environment than I am. She has been the only one up until January of 2024, the only Black girl in her class. And I struggled with that. Because of sometimes the things that people said, because of the fascination with her hair, because of all sorts of things. And this semester, she was joined by another little Black girl in her class. And my heart rejoiced, because until you're the only one all the time, you don't know what it feels like to have to shoulder the burden of being the only one, and that the representation falls upon you. And the truth of the matter is, it's not sustainable. I said in my TED talk, you know, I may be the first Black woman select member in Natick, but there are so many people who have come before me all over Massachusetts, who have served and have, you know, who are stepping up. But what I will say is that I am so blessed and so privileged to serve. And what I think a part of liberation is making sure that other people feel empowered to serve. You know, there are other voices that I go to. And you know, Troy can tell you, I have connected him with a number of those people because they can represent too. They should represent. It's not sustainable to always have one, especially when they're in the minority. So that is the next piece of liberation. Who are we empowering? Who are we raising up? So that we don't only depend on the one, and so that we can interact and say, listen, there's more of us, you know, at the table. There are more gifts and talents to look upon. And that means something for everyone. You know, who's your friend? Who's in your friendship circle? Who's in your Rolodex? Who's at your dinner table? Who's at your church? If you find that we are deeply, deeply segregated, then we have work to do.
Yeah.
We have work to do. That's intentional. It has to be intentional upon all of us. So I am excited for this celebration of Juneteenth. I'm so grateful, Doug and Sarah, that you are taking time to spend time on it, that we as a community care enough to acknowledge it, that we will be mindful of the history, of the current, present, and what we want the future to look like, and how we are empowering and unifying with one another to get there, to get to a place of liberation. Melinda Gates said something that just, I mean, it is sticking with me so hard. She has resigned her position from the Gates Foundation, and she's moving on to other efforts, other very noble efforts. And she said, I desire for all women to live the life that they choose. And I think that is so noble. So, you know, she's giving her wealth away to organizations that she believes in, who will empower women to live bold, beautiful lives. You know, we don't all have millions and billions, but we have something that we can offer to someone to help them live a more free existence. At the same time that, you know, I am at times challenged with my daughter's upbringing, I'm so grateful that she's here. I will pivot into this production that she's in. She is a hometown girl in this Once on This Island production. It is absolutely incredible. I'm so grateful for the Conaway family and how they have just loved on her and embraced her and sought after her. My heart is just so full. My heart is so incredibly full because here she is at 6 years old, she'll be 7 in a couple of weeks. But here she is, and she gets to like do what she loves here right at home with the support of neighbors. I just had a girlfriend whose kids are in the Natick Public School text me. She said, I was looking for shows to go see, and I found Lily's face. I found her poster, and I was at the spiritual center, and her face is on the poster. She said, you must be so proud. And I'm absolutely blown away. So, you know, not because she's the little Black girl in a white town going, you know, being able to perform, but because she's a part of this community, just as we all are. And she gets to live and thrive here in her own gifts. This is how incredible this community is. So I, for one, am grateful every day that I get to wake up in Natick and I get to serve. And I'm grateful for the hearts and minds of all of you that want to continue to do this work together in unity and to uplift us all. Really, thank you, Bishop Kelly, for bringing up, you know, our Jewish brothers and sisters, our Muslim brothers and sisters, our, you know, Black and Latino and Asian brothers and sisters. We are all together in this beautiful mosaic, and we need one another. We all need one another. And so I know we will all continue to do our part to unify and to gather and to help and to uplift and to empower one another into the prosperity that I believe God intends for all of us to enjoy. So thank you. I will not drone on. Thank you so much, Dylan, for the opportunity.
Thank you for service on Basic Black.
Yeah, thank you for those words, Kristen. Pat, you had your hand up, did
Thank
you?
you.
You gotta come off mute, Matt. Pat.
I want to thank you, Kristen, and everybody, Deborah, Bishop, for your presentation today. Really inspiring, wonderful. And I was just a quick random question. Is Juneteenth, the activity going to be done, videoed by Pegasus and broadcast through there?
I would guess it is.
I talked to Randy. I was at Pegasus. I have a show on Pegasus, Keeping It Real. And Randy's gonna be there. Don't forget, at 11, we're gonna be doing the What is the Slave to the 4th of July. I know some people here have speaking parts. I believe you have a speaking part?
I said he was kicking it off.
I
Yeah.
think last year Bishop was the key. And he didn't know that he was going to.
I was a ram in the bush.
Yeah,
I was thrust into that spot.
So that starts at 11, so please come to watch, because we're gonna have Kristen, I believe you're speaking.
I am the
believe-
editor. Mhm.
Yeah, and then we have Bruno, who's a drummer, he's gonna be drumming, and then we have Bria, what's her name?
Brennan Greer.
Brennan Greer, who's gonna do the opening. Troy, we got Donna's gonna be there, right? And then we have, we're gonna have, then we're gonna say over to the, Juneteenth, where Doug's gonna have put up the tent. We have a tent, and we have so many things. And my friend Donna, we're gonna be making bracelets, African bracelets. We have a Native United is gonna be there.
Yeah. Yeah,
And-
so that festival runs from 1 to 4, so
Yeah.
like all afternoon. So,
Yeah, but don't forget what is the slave.
Right, that starts at 11 at the
Yeah.
library, right?
I just like saying that, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
But everybody, are you speaking, Doug? You said you wasn't able to.
I gotta go get my sister from the airport, so I'm not sure if I can this year, but
But
I
you
really
can-
enjoyed it
yeah.
last year.
Rick, are you gonna be there?
Hmm.
But anybody, we should come down, I hear we have a good mix of young, old people. So even if you don't have a speaking part, Sally, come, if you wanna bring a lawn chair, this is gonna be great, I know Bishop is gonna be extraordinaire this year, cause if he has time to practice. Last year, he didn't have time to practice, he was just the ram in the bush.
And just while we're talking about events on the calendar, and Kristen, thanks for your words and thanks for talking about your daughter being in the production. You folks hopefully recall that we had Pat's grandson Patrick coming and talking to us in more detail about that production. It runs, what is it, the 1st to the 4th of August? Is that what it is?
First week of August, yeah.
First week of August, so be sure and get your tickets to that production. It'll be up at Walnut Hill, right? Is that in the?
Yes.
Yeah.
I ran into Pat the other day when I was driving to my show, and he gave me a flyer. So if you see the show, Keeping It Real, you'll see his flyer posted in the show. You gotta watch it. I'll send it to Doug, I'll send it to you. You can send it because I
Yeah,
put it on blast.
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
All right, and Rick, I see you're putting some additional book recommendations in the chat, and Kristen's got the link to buying tickets, so. All good stuff. Now. Cool. Pat, you wanna, something else?
Yeah, I was gonna just chime in quickly and thank Kristen. I love your message of liberation or that theme, because it seems to me like every time we have one of these, Deborah's helped us a lot too. Growing up white middle class American, we're becoming liberated from our ignorance. Basically, that's what's happening. Really appreciate all the great teachers that we have among us, including you.
Yeah. As I listened to your words, Bishop, my takeaway was kind of, okay, so we got "we the people" in the Constitution. It's like, we're done, right? No, we're not done.
Yeah.
It's like, then we have Juneteenth, emancipation. We're done, right? No, we're not done. So now we gotta have the whole civil rights movement. Right? We're done, right? No,
Right.
we're never done.
That's
right?
correct.
Gotta keep working.
And women were so far behind. I
Yeah.
mean, after Black men, I mean, in terms of getting the vote, we forget women couldn't have a credit card until 1974. I mean, there's just a lot of things, and I really appreciated Kristen's call to liberation, especially with ecological justice, because there's a new project, I think Deborah's involved in it. But when you look at the map of the heat spots, like in the Metro West area, you can link those to also people who are suffering from economic instability. There are more people of color. It's just more the same old story in terms of, living in disadvantaged areas, even in terms of climate. So that is really important that we address it and think about trees and shade canopy and health also. I mean, we've had a miraculous drop in deaths from drugs in Massachusetts, except for Black men, which has increased. And I wrote on this once, an article on apartheid medicine. And I don't think you'll be treated the same, sadly, if you are a Black person going into an ER with a health-related condition compared to a white person. It just is, we have a lot of work to do, and I sounded more pessimistic, I think, when I speak, and it's probably my Irishness. There's an Irish poet, Keats, who said he had enough sense of tragedy to sustain him through temporary periods of joy. I probably have that Irish melancholy, but I think Kristen's work towards about liberation and hope, because the examples that she points to are so hopeful. And her example of Lily and Lily in the play, I mean, what a beautiful contrast to my experience of, growing up in Native with hardly any white people at all. And things change and we forget that. And that's a sign of hope that we have more role models. We've got Kristen, we have you serving as a model of a woman in leadership as a member of our select board, for the first time ever. And that is just amazing. There are children in Natick who know now that of course, women and Black women can be part of the select board. So grateful to you for that leadership.
I just want to say this, that, but Donna talked about the, injustice thing I'm working on. They're sending me a Barry, you remember Barry?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's gonna send some brochures and booklets and pamphlets about heat, how it affects elders for our table,
Good.
Juneteenth.
Okay.
And also Christian, we don't know, Christian is a gem, absolute gem of a person. Behind the scenes, she's counseled me, she kept me out of a lot of trouble. Like a little big sister, I have to call her little big sister, because I'm bigger than her, but she's my little big sister. Just like, we're family, you're Black, we're folks, so she's an AKA, she won't let me do the ski week thing because that's not appropriate. My sister's an AKA, so but what I wanna say is, we have a treasure in Kristen. She's also was the director of Black Boston, Basic Black. She's Basic Black, didn't you?
I was a host for Basic Black for the last 2 years.
She was a host of one of the most prestigious shows in Black America, Black culture, and now that's gone. But she's a journalist, and I'm not trying to toot your horn, but I have to.
You're doing a good job.
Yeah.
She's gonna pay me.
She's deserving of
She's gonna pay me
I
later.
want to get to Rick
Yeah,
as well,
go
'cause
ahead.
Rick's been
But
patient
she's
and then,
a gem. She's a treasure.
Rick, what did you want to add?
I just wanted to add, in regard to the book that recommendation that I made, is that change has to begin in the suburbs, because this is where wealth creation, the machine has been created in the last 75 years that has created such economic inequality. So we have to do our part here, not to be NIMBY and to take every opportunity, not to prioritize, just what we like in the town, but to make this town open to others. And part of that, I'll be at one of the things I'll be doing on Wednesday afternoon down there, legally on legal ground, not actually on the common, but right beside it, near the post office and on the sidewalk, is collecting signatures for a charter commission to look at our town to see how representative it really is. And I know this initiative has many people who've studied this longer and harder than I have, so I won't pretend to be, anything other than a follower, which is generally what I am. But the other thing that this book brought home to me, just in a nutshell, is that I can't just hibernate and say, well, I'm going to concentrate on making Natick a better place, and for people to live. It goes beyond that, and it goes beyond that for everybody in the suburbs. We all have a collective obligation to the debt we've created for another generation that's growing up with massive debt that we didn't, and without the equity to pay for it, that we didn't face growing up. We had Pell Grants. I'm not that much different in age from the bishop and Deborah and others who've spoken up, and we've had incredible advantages, our generations, and we need to do much more than we're doing to reverse the trend that's been going on steadily. So that's it. Sorry to be a downer finish this on a downer note. It's been uplifting to hear everybody talking. Thank you, Deborah. Thank you to the bishop and to Kristen. And and everybody else. And I hope to see everybody out there on Wednesday.
Yeah,
Sign that
thank you.
petition if you haven't.
Not a downer, you, good book
Yeah,
recommendation, I applaud your work on the charter. Kristen, you had your hand up as well, did you wanna weigh in
Yes.
again?
Doug, thank you so much. I will be brief because I'm going to jump off to a 10:30 meeting. So thank you. Rick, thank you for your work on the Charter Commission. It has been studied at length and it's important. It is important, I believe, probably for us to have a more equitable form of government that serves everybody quicker and faster and more efficiently. So thank you for your work on that. Deborah, thank you for just the love. You didn't have to do any or say any of that. We are just here. We are here as community, period. I wanted to just briefly say that, you know, another form of resistance, and I put a book, the book We Refuse, A Forceful History of Black Resistance. One of the chapters is on joy. And that just cannot be, you know, joy and hope, I think to a very deep person sounds petty, but it is not. It is not. I actually spent the weekend, I took Lily to New York City to go see The Lion King in preparation for Once on This Island. I wanted her to see a Broadway play. We just got back last night. So don't tell anybody that we played hooky from school so we could, the last day of school, so we could go to New York City. But we had the best mother-daughter time ever. We saw, you know, The Lion King and did the New York City thing. I lived in Harlem for the 5 years after I graduated from college, and Richard and I lived in White Plains before we moved to Boston. And so New York City has a special place in my heart. But I wanted her to experience that, and it brought me so much joy. And it brought her so much joy. And it is the refreshing because we come back and we have big work to do. We have big work to do. And so we need joy. We need joy as the tank, as the fuel to continue. And we need hope. Hope is not a fleeting thing. It is not minute. It is not, it's not small. Hope is huge. When people ask me, like, Kristen, you know, the world is in such disarray, how are we going to deal? And I say, I have a daughter. We have children. We have children to look after. How can we not have hope when we look in these little faces? When we look at these kids who are graduating from Natick High School or graduating from the middle school, how can we not have hope? We are sending them into the world. So we must have hope. We must have hope that there's a new generation coming who's going to add their brilliance to the issues that we have. They're going to be a solution. They're going to be the answer in some way, shape, or form. When I look at Lily, I am filled with hope. I'm filled with hope. And I'm filled with conviction to work. And then I'm also taking moments for joy, because that is the only way that I will be refreshed in this work. And so sometimes I say no. I say no to obligations and invitations because it is my family, it is my spiritual life that gives me joy for the long haul, because this is about endurance. You know, this is about the long road, and we need strength for the long road. So I may say no temporarily today so that I can say yes for the years ahead. And I appreciate those that understand that from all of us. But joy, we must prioritize joy. Hope is a real thing. And I'm grateful, and gratitude, right? Just consistent gratitude for every day that we wake up with breath. There is gratitude. So thank you again, Doug. Thank you all for all that you do that nobody talks about, that you don't talk about, that nobody even knows about, but it's happening, and it is blessing and bringing us all together and making Natick and our Metro West and ultimately our world a better place. So God bless you all. Have a wonderful day, and I look forward to seeing many of you on Wednesday.
Kristen, my sister Jamila is the head of a school in Philly. It's not a school. It's for young kids, but they have the joy. They have a joy rule. They want to bring joy to the classroom. I'll send you the article. It's all about bringing joy to the classroom because they want to have joy in the classroom so the kids will want to go to school and want to love going to school. It's all about the joy. And we know that the joy of the Lord is our strength. And so I'm gonna send you that article. She spoke about it. They creating the joy, something they call it. But it also,
If
I
you
want
send
to talk about.
ready.
All right,
I know
yeah,
you gotta
Kristen's
go.
gotta take off. Great,
I'm gonna
great.
send that to
Thank you,
you.
Kristen.
I
Yeah,
wanna
Thank
say,
you.
I wanna say growing up in Natick, I didn't grow up in Natick, but being in Natick, I have a lot of joy with my pop and bean kids.
mhm,
I love the kids and I love it. I love being able to do that. And plus, when you grow up in a Black community, you have a lot of cousins. My new book, I'm gonna plug my new book, Cousins Christmas.
Hmm.
It's something about being in your own town with your own people. You say, hey, cousin across the street, hey, Nana, and all that stuff. So there is good in all of our communities, even like Donald Trump would say, you got nothing, you got this, that's not true.
mm.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I thought Kristen's comments were good to close us out. It is 10:30.
Thank you.
Sarah, why don't you go ahead and turn off the recording at this point? Sarah was doing the recording for us in Martin's
Look at
absence.
that.
Yep. But good discussion as usual.